screenless.
Jesper Hauerslev, Senior Product Lead at LEGO. Welcome to Creative Cuppa.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for having me.
You're very welcome. So you work at many kids' dream company. What does your job involve on a typical day?
So my job on a typical day, and I do apologize for breaking a lot of illusions right now, unfortunately, it does not involve me sitting around building Legos all day. So just want to put that out there so, people have no, illusions. But what it does involve is still quite exciting. So I work in the digital side of Legos, many different areas. And I work specifically in a department called Digital Consumer Engagement. Now, what we do is basically we own and manage all of the Lego apps that aren't a game or tied into a space to a specific product. So the one that I'm looking after specifically is the one called Lego Life, which is a social network for kids who love Lego, and it's a place for kids to, share their love of Lego, to get inspired by other people's love of Lego, and sort of be part of a community that sort of aims to enhance creative brickwork, as we call it.
Nice.
So, so it does involve, a lot of Lego building in some regards.
Yeah. I love that. I love the idea of a social network for kids, because one thing, and I was speaking to somebody about this the other day, that if you look at, say, a cartoon version, animated version of Star Wars or Jurassic Park or something like that, the Lego versions,
yeah,
you just know that they are going to be child-friendly, kind of family-friendly viewing. So I think the brand is that strong that if Lego say, oh, we've got a social network, it's going to be a safe space, don't you?
Yes, exactly. And that is, you're sort of hitting the nail right on the head there, because it's also one of the things that we are very much aware of and that you need to be very aware of when you work for Lego. And it's something that we're all, like everyone at Lego, takes a real sense of pride in knowing that we are this, large global brand, which can be a little bit, sometimes to be perfectly honest, you do tend to forget about it, because Lego's HQ is in the middle of a field in this very small little, village in the middle of Denmark that's just surrounded by fields. And, this is where you have one of the biggest, most popular toy companies in the world ever. So, it's just sometimes good to kind of remind yourself of that. But yeah, like safety and security for kids and online safety is one of the things that we are extremely vigilant about, and especially an app and an experience like Lego Life, for instance, knowing that it is a social network. It does involve interaction on some level between kids, and sort of how do we keep them safe, and how do we keep it still playful, and how do we make it adhere to sort of Lego's exceptionally high standards, because, we do want to be the standard that people are looking towards. So they can say, well, if Lego is doing it this way, then maybe we should do it that way as well. Yeah. So that's a lot of pressure, but there's also comes with a lot of interesting challenges. And I like to hope to think that we will keep on rising to that challenge.
Yeah. So you've been at Lego since 2019?
Yes, I have. So I'm still fairly new.
Yeah. So at what point did you decide you wanted to do what you do? Was it something you decided on when you were much younger, or is it something that evolved and you ended up there?
Sort of for me, one of the things that I've always sort of my childhood and my, my hobbies and my aspirations have always sort of evolved around, has always been around sort of stories and worlds. And obviously being a kid and being a Danish kid, I would build these very elaborate sort of story worlds with my Lego bricks and, sit on my room and tell all kinds of stories. And, later on, as I got older, me and my friend would start to create our little like comic books, and, with me as the writer and him as the artist. And then sort of, again, like as I kept on growing older, then I came across games and computer games, which to me is sort of very much the, it's very much sort of the pinnacle of story worlds, because no other medium can sort of allow you to step into a different world and experience it sort of really up close. And I always knew that games and sort of gaming worlds would be a big part of what I wanted to do. I started uni. I started on a course called Humanistic Informatics, which sounds really sort of far and high fetch, but basically like what it is human interaction with the digital world, or basically computers, as they said that way.
Yes, but what made you choose that course? I mean, I've been listening, thinking, oh yes, that makes sense, and then what?
Exactly.
That's quite out there, isn't it?
It is, and also it sounds a lot more high flying than it actually is. But the reason why I wanted to choose that was because that they had sort of 3 different areas that you could then specialize in a little bit further down the line, and one of them was multimedia, as it was called back in the day, which probably also shows just how old I actually am. Where you actually, like, a big part of that was where you got to play with macromedia, if listeners remember what that was, such as Director and Dreamweaver. And to me, that good old classic. And to me, that kind of felt like that was the closest that I would be able to get in sort of to making games or something game-like.
And of course, that's where Flash comes from as well.
Flash, yes, exactly, and everything.
Used widely in the animation industry.
Yeah, exactly. And that was great. And I was sort of like, right, so I'm sort of on the cusp of something great here. And then I had an epiphany, because I suddenly realized that, games was actually now starting to be considered as an area for study, like an actual academic area. Now, mind you, this was back in the start of the 2000s. So, games were still slightly like in their infancy. They were sort of starting to become a little bit more mainstream, and they were starting to become a little bit more advanced. And, you were starting to see these really elaborate, stories and story worlds. And when I sort of realized that this was an actual academic field of study, my mind was blown completely. And I thought, this is what I want to do. But I still had this sort of want and desire to be able to, make my own games. But I'd sort of park that and say, no, this is great. I'm going to pursue a career in academia. I want to be sort of one of the trailblazers in studying games. And during uni, I did some really, great work on that, which I'm actually sort of still quite proud of and still can sort of draw on a lot. So fast forwarding then a few years, and I got the opportunity to do an internship with the BBC, children's BBC in London. So I went to the BBC Children's, worked on a children's show called Bamsuki, sort of an intern / production runner, which was some of the most fun months I've ever spent in my life. It was such a good team. It was such a great experience. And I was initially just going to be there for 4 months. I then went back to Denmark. A month later, they called me up and said, "Hey, Jesper, we're starting up the new series, and it would be nice to get some people back who actually, knew the concept. So would you want to come back?" And I said, "Let me think about that for about like 10 seconds." And yes, of course, I'm going to come back.
That's how it happens, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And again, it was an amazing experience again. And sort of now having sort of, gotten sort of my foot inside the door at one of the biggest media organizations in the world, I was very lucky and very fortunate to be able to join after the series had ended, to join the interactive team at BBC Children's, who were looking after the website. And at that point, CBBC was also starting to venture into more elaborate gaming projects. And I saw that as this is my opportunity to sort of finally sort of get in and get my hands dirty with it. And it was a great learning experience. I kind of joined in as sort of a development researcher working on the development team, and was helping with everything like, writing and collating the design documents, helping prepare for voice recording sessions, meeting the actual developers, because we'd outsourced the actual development to a game company called Larian Studios in the Netherlands, Benelux, actually. Through that, I got involved in other gaming projects as well, and all of them sort of very much with the focus on children, this being a project led by BBC Children's. So it was very much gaming for children. And a lot of these projects, they were kind of challenging at the time, the design conventions about sort of what a game for children should be. And that was very exciting to be part of that. And I sort of continued there for a number of years, then made a slight pivot, you could say, and moved over to ITV to become the online editor for the CITV website, which they were looking to rebrand, rescope, and redefine what the online offering for CITV was going to be. And sort of me, with my perspective and sort of my focus on worlds and world building, and sort of I like to see the digital and experiences and game experiences as worlds and not exactly as sort of a game or a website as such. And that was a great opportunity to be able to join that as well. So I spent a number of years there, and then the opportunity came to then kind of pivot back into more dedicated game production again. So I moved back to my native Denmark and joined a company there called Progressive. And this was sort of where I really got into, dare I say, proper game development. So I was hired in to produce a game called Hugo Troll Wars. So I worked on that. And to be honest, it was quite a bit of a steep learning curve coming from working with games at the BBC, where it was sort of very, new, and you were sort of helping define the process and the way of looking at games and from a BBC perspective. And it was also sort of during this time that I sort of started to become aware of that there is actually a lot of difference between when you are a producer, when you are a project manager, and when you are a product manager. And that actually took me, to be perfectly honest, that actually took me a few years to work out exactly sort of what the difference was between them and sort of where I fitted in. And I'll be perfectly honest, I don't think I've even worked it out completely yet. The reason for that is that it actually depends and differs a lot based on what company you're in and what it is that they work on. But after a number of years working in game development, also then later returning to the UK to work for various indie game studios there, I very much sort of, eventually kind of settled on that it's the product management side of things that I'm mostly intrigued by, because as the product manager, you're managing the product being the game or the digital experience in general. And it's through sort of with the focus on that, where you are the champion of the product. And then in an ideal world, you would then have your discussions with the champion of the schedule, which would be the project manager. And then through there, sometimes with some heated but always friendly discussions, hopefully, you sort of, create something really, really great and really, really spectacular.
Going back to Lego, is Lego Live something that is live right now?
It is, yeah, actually. Lego Live has actually been live since the past 3 years now. I think it launched it launched before I joined, but it launched way back in, I believe it was January of 17, I think. And quite a undertaking at the time. And also, perhaps even something that people wouldn't expect Lego to kind of venture into. But, once you look at it now, and when I joined the team, it had been running for quite a number of years. So, looking at it now, it does make a lot of sense, because we know that there's a lot of children out there who love Lego. And, if there's one thing that Lego is good at, and maybe even quite unique at, is that it's something that can be a very rewarding experience if you're just sitting by yourself. But it could equally be just a rewarding experience if you sit and, play and build together as well.
Yeah.
The strange times we live in now with COVID-19 and lockdown, we've actually seen a lot of this sort of playing and building together really kind of coming through. We've been hearing a lot from parents and carers and the children themselves that being able to build together, a Lego castle or a cool spaceship and stuff like that is such a rewarding experience. And, it's so nice to hear those stories, because again, it reminds you that you are working for a really unique company with a very unique, product and proposal.
With that in mind, I have a couple of ideas for you for products. So we all know what it feels like to step on a Lego brick. It really, really hurts. So slippers with the Lego underside for soles, and then you can just pick up Lego as you walk through.
That is an excellent idea.
Thank you.
I'm just writing it down right now.
So the other one is a Lego vacuum cleaner that is also the storage container. So it's teaching kids to vacuum, and then they vacuum up their Lego and it's put away.
I love that idea. That is so brilliant. I cannot tell you the amount of times that My daughter, who's 3, has gotten her hands on our brick bin and, thrown it all over the room and had a lot of fun. Then it's been dinner time or, something else caught her attention. The amount of time poor daddy here spent, just meticulously picking up all the pieces and putting them back in the bin. I love that idea. I think that's really, really great. And it will teach her how to clean up.
Fantastic. Well, where can people find you online?
I think the best place to find me online would be on my Twitter account, which is pseudo thinking, or just search for my name, Jesper Hauerslev, or just any kind of post that's got anything to do with Lego. Like at the moment, I seem to be involved in them, which is great. So yeah, all kinds of strange musings and some funny stories and the occasional odd picture of a strange build from time to time.
Fantastic. I will put those links in the show notes as well. As well as I've got a few fun facts that I discovered online about Lego, so I'll put those in the show notes as well, just for kicks. But for now, Jesper Hauerslev, thank you ever so much for joining me for a cuppa.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Have a good day all.